Okay, I'm creating a little slideshow here. I got 1,000 pictures, but I'm kind of flipping through my computer. I still have to scan a bunch, but I'm posting these mostly because friends and coworkers from when I lived in Lahaina, that was 1985 to 1919, and roughly, and the fire, sadly enough, lost a piece of myself there too. I was there for over 30 years, but uh, my friends and coworkers actually wanted me to post a lot of the videos and slideshows that I have, some of the pictures. So I'm just grabbing them randomly. I'm going to flip through them, give you a little scenario. Some of them are boring. If you aren't from Lahaina, you may not find this very interesting. That's okay. I'm just doing it to get it up and posted so we don't lose it. And those that want to see it, great. So let's get started here. Um, Carthaginian, that's right at the dock in Lahaina Harbor. It's since been removed and sank and used as a dive site, but this is a replica of the original Carthaginian. The original Carthaginian sank, and they found this hull design. It might have even been made by the same boat company that made the original Carthaginian, but it was close enough that they could do a really close replica, and it's actually sat here for many, many years till the Lahaina Hysterical Society. Um, People don't have anything better to do than just charge around and try to tell everybody else. A bunch of Karens, let's call them that. Anyway, there's a guy named Wally. They found him down in Olawalu. He was a homeless guy, and they gave him a job living on the boat and tending it and taking care of it. And used to wear his pirate uniform. I don't know if I have any pictures of him, but walk around the harbor and hey mate, and uh, so they put him out of a home and got rid of a piece of history for Lahaina. I guess it's all for naught now. But anyway, that's the Carthaginian. I gotta, as I find more pictures of this stuff, I'll be posting it. So I got thousands of pictures to go through and thousands to scan, and I got hundreds of hours of videos, and I'm just randomly grabbing them. So here you go. South side of Lanai, the cliffs. I used to drive along these things running the ferry. We'd run right along the coast of Lanai as we were going into Manili Bay. Another close-up view, south side of Lanai, the cliffs there. They sheared off because of every place volcanoes lava flowed. Every time there was a different lava flow, there was a fault, and salt would build up, contract, and expand, and a bunch of other things that are over my geological head, but eventually they would crack and fall into the ocean, leaving these cliffs. So there's a coral sea. We caught a marlin. This is like 86, 1985. Uh, I'm actually in that picture there somewhere. Jill. Another picture of the booth of Coral Sea, and I'm trying to find all my Coral Sea pictures. A bunch of guys, almost every captain that'd been around in Lahaina Harbor forever drove Coral Sea at one time or another. First boat I ever drove. But I'm the deckhand. We caught a oh no. There's the Coral Sea. Well watching. I was actually driving the boat that day. It was my first real boat job, and I'm on it somewhere. But another boat took this picture and gave me the picture. And that's just about the only pictures I've got of the Coral Sea. I'm going to keep digging for them. There's a 100-ton fiberglass wood boat. Ocean Discovery, Pacific Well Foundation, doing what they do best, running up on the reef. And They were sitting on the reef, and I was actually, the storm came through, and I was actually sitting on Expeditions 4, I do believe, on the dock of Lahaina doing storm watch. Coast Guard told these guys to make sure that boat doesn't move till they could be down there to observe a moving. And then about 2 in the morning, because I was on the Expeditions 4, they all snuck down and they jerked that thing off the reef. They actually drug it through the reef quite a ways. So that's your eco tour for you. Um, that boat went up on the reef in a, I don't know which storm, but I believe it belonged to Eric Peace, local musician. He's since passed, a little bit younger than me. Um, but that was his boat. Another shot of that. Now I'm pretty sure it's his boat. It looks like it's that one's got a Canadian flag on it, but I don't know. If somebody's got some information on that, correct me. But I thought that was Eric's boat, so maybe not. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm seeing a Canadian flag, possibly. Anyway, that boat sat on the reef till it got annihilated. They got the shit fined out of them by the EPA, DLNR, and the Coast USCG Coast Guard. And I'm sure it wasn't even worth salvaging by now. Leaving Lahaina Harbor, it's a good view of it. I was on the aft deck of one of the ferry boats. I was probably crewing that day. Took that picture. My first computer in the 90s made this Photoshop. I don't even know how that got in there. Anyway, that is a good aerial view of Lahaina Harbor. That was a postcard actually that came from the Pioneer Inn. I don't know if I still have it or not, actually, but they used to give those things away, literally. They also gave away a lot of paper cardboard placemats too with different pictures on them, and I ended up keeping a couple of those. I got them framed, but um, yeah, that had to have been in the 80, no, the 70s. The Harbor Shack isn't on the parking lot. The Harbor Shack's down by the dumpster, where the dumpster is now. There's a Carthaginian. You see, there's no catwalk in the back. So, in the back row of the boats there. So, and I'm not sure when they put that in. There's only one side of the loading dock. That's the south side. When they upgraded it, it took forever. Typical, huh? Anyways, that's a kind of a good picture on a postcard. So another picture coming into Lahaina Harbor. Nice flat day. It looks like that's Expeditions 3 on the south side. They're probably loading freight. I'm going to try to find some pictures of Expeditions 3. I'll post them quickly. I actually got one when they failed the stability tests and they rolled over in Seattle. And but if I can find it, I'll show it. So Hurricane Iniki, 1992. Those are the old original trilogy signs. And the guy in that picture, I can't remember his name, but he was one of the maintenance engineers. You can see the waves breaking. They were disastrous. We were sitting on Kaulana and I believe that was slip 4, actually drinking rum. Everybody drank rum back then. And watching the waves. And then we finally decided we needed to go get Coral Sea off the mooring. We didn't know if it was going to make it or not. So that's a pretty powerful picture. Those waves had to have 20 to 30-foot faces on them. That's down at Mala Wharf. That's where we went to try to get out to save the Coral Sea. Um, You can see the Hyatt in the background. My deck crew took these two pictures with a Brownie Instamatic. That's before everybody had a phone. Um, and he gave me those two pictures, Lahaina Harbor and Mall of Wharf here, said that I could do what I wanted with them. So I'm not copywriting or anything. I've had them ever since 1992. So you can see the Hyatt in the background. Now that boat in front is called the Pequod. It was actually red. And one of the captains who since passed, his name was Rolly, and his wife Grace. I can't remember their last name right now, but they sailed that over from California. Anyway, that boat sank shortly after this picture was taken. And then the one behind it, I do believe it belonged to Steve and Gary Turner. They owned a sailboat. There were a couple of captains in the harbor. One of them is Gary's past, but that was their boat. Now, if I'm wrong, somebody correct me, but I do believe that was their boat, the Rambler, and that didn't sink because when that finally broke mooring, it just happened to go out to sea instead of into shore. Pequod went into shore. It was just a luck of the draw. And they ended up retrieving that boat offshore after the storm passed, after the hurricane passed. And it was in pretty good shape, believe it or not. But I'll never forget this day. That was powerful, just sitting there watching this stuff. And that's where Mall of Wharf fell down. A huge concrete wharf or pier went down and bang, one shot, man. Uh, this is the undercarriage of a boat, Spirit of Lahaina. No, this is Ocean Spirit. Another eco-friendly boat with Pacific Well Foundation. Sustained damage. Captain Tiff Thomas, who's since passed, but she was delivering this boat after it was damaged when I was driving it originally. That picture's coming up next. They're out of order. But after it was damaged and they were taking it uh, back to Honolulu to repair it, and she was hired to do it for Pacific Well Foundation Eco Tours. And the darn thing practically fell in half. It was in such bad shape, and they limped back into Barge Harbor, and the Coast Guard went and looked at it and condemned the boat. They ended up scrapping it. And the ops manager at that time sent me this picture. Now that's the damage that I sustained before the previous picture. I was hired by Pacific Well Foundation, eco-friendly company, to bring this boat back from Honolulu dry dock back to I believe Lahaina Harbor. And I told him, I said, man, it is too rough. We had gale force winds, and Greg Coppin, who's also since passed, he goes, no, you got to get that thing back. And I said, well, you left me a bunch of money to stay in a hotel and put the crew and feed the crew and put the crew in a hotel. And that's what it's here for. And I don't think we should be bringing it back. He chewed me up one side and down the other. I knew I didn't have a future with that outfit at that point. I brought it back. This is the damage I sustained. I got into Maalaea Harbor. They repaired it in Maalaea and until and ran it, I do believe, for a little while before Tiff decided to take it back to Honolulu where it was condemned. Eco-friendly company. Okay, that's the bathroom. Motorcycles at the no parking. That's the $7 million outhouse. Incidentally, yeah, everything is overpriced. Uh, that's the only building downtown there by the harbor that survived the fire, incidentally. And I don't know why, but they were getting ready to upgrade that thing. Homeless people used to live in it, and they destroyed it. And um, but anyway, $7 million outhouse survived, the only building down in the harbor that survived that the Lahaina wildfire. There's the old sea view, glass bottom boat. One of the captains, Greg, down there, and his maintenance engineer, Brad. That boat went up in the storm onto the rocks. That was right behind the old Bubba Gumps, the old sea view. And they're trying to figure out how they're going to get that thing off the rocks right now. Those of you that were captains or worked the boats in Lahaina in the old days will remember that thing. That is it's a little bigger than I would say a water spout. Not as big as a tornado. Kind of like a bigger than a dust devil, smaller than a tornado on the way to Lanai. It's I've seen a couple of those over, well, I was there 35 years. A couple down by Molokini Crater. This one's the only one I've ever seen en route to Lanai. Um, Kind of interesting. Usually we just drove around it. You don't need to be in fear if you can see it. So anyway, sunrise. That's a sunrise because Lahaina is facing, I'm facing to the east there. So we had to, got the boat up and running and we're making the first run in the early in the morning. I think I snapped this picture. So it's a sunrise in Lahaina before the wildfire. Expeditions 1, the one that started the whole expedition's legacy. Uh, Craig Noonan started that up. That was the first boat. Was making like 1 or 2 runs a day to Lanai. But anyway, that boat ended up being a freight boat. And there was a tsunami, and I don't remember which one it was, but all the water left the harbor and left that thing sitting in the mud. I thought that was kind of a interesting picture. And the water would rush back in, and then that thing would be sitting on the dock. Uh, when the tsunami came, it actually flooded the restrooms in Manili Bay in the harbor there. Olawalo, West Maui Mountains, or is that? That may be Lani Poco. Olawalo, I don't remember. It's been years, 10 since I took that picture. Probably took that picture in about 98. I don't know, 95. Expeditions 1 again. I drove that boat quite a few times when I first went to work for Expeditions. That's the beginner boat they put you on. And man, she was actually a pretty sweet boat. She handled nicely, probably better than a lot of the big boats. I got out in some 25-foot seas with her, and she would just ride up over the top of them and down the other side. She had a big area in back there, and we could either haul 25 passengers, I believe, or we could take the seats out and turn it into a freight boat. And we hauled mostly freight with it as we got the bigger boats in the ferry. Um, and we also use it as a hearse or a body boat. We hauled bodies back and forth. I wish I could say we did them all in caskets, but we didn't. That's a story for another time. But yeah, me and Cat Mal Malone used to run that boat quite a bit. Do all the nasty runs with that thing. She's like, if I remember right, about 40 feet. Nice boat though. Had a couple of Cummins engines in them, C series, plenty of power. So we do about 20 some knots. Expeditions 2, Captain Paul was driving, I believe, this day. I wasn't on the boat this day, but Captain Paul was driving, Paul King, and he was running freight. And the boat was heavy, um, but there was a big following sea. It had an observation deck on the back up top for about 6 people, and the people that hired the boat to haul the freight were sitting up there taking videos. I don't remember if they had a what kind of video camera they had, but anyway, this is a screenshot, and you can see the boat is heeled over and 45 degrees at least, I would say. I tell you, I wouldn't want to be on that thing. I hated driving that boat. God, I hated it. I drove that thing in so many crappy situations. Shit, and I don't think any of the captains like driving that boat. After as you graduated up the scale to driving boats from the one boat to the two boat, and they bring in bigger boats and anyway, everybody had to do it though. So that's the Expeditions 2. Expedition 6. I don't know when that came into being. That was the most recent boat. I think it's the only one they still got after the fire. I think they're struggling. They're running out of Malaya to Manele Bay, and that is one long, miserable, hard on your body, hard on the boat run. I've done it many times. And it's so hard to get into a position where you're not running in the trough or not getting the crap beat out of you. Um, so that'd be the Expeditions 6. All right, here we have Expedition 7 in the making. There's the crew up there taking passengers over to Manele Bay. So, uh, not really. Yeah, Expedition 7, that's my joke. Because there were times when I was out there and the shit looked like that and it just sucked. But we got to make money. Don't stop running the boats. You might lose your captain's license. You might end up killing everybody on the boat, but you better stay out there and keep running. Shit. I don't miss this shit. I miss Lahaina and my friends. I really do. They were like family. I was, like I said, there for almost 35 years, 34 years. But man, I don't miss working those boats out in that shit anymore. You reach an age where it's just it just ain't any fun anymore. I mean, I had some good experiences, and I got them all on video. I'll be posting that and a lot of pictures. So that's about it. Um, we'll be signing out. Aloha.